gets hit and goes down, and he gets blasted. I'm loving what I'm seeing up front defensively.
The Seahawks have always had pretty interesting defensive lines. First pick in team history was Steve Niehaus, who before he got hurt, I mean, it did look like he was on his way to being a pretty good player. Kind of acquiring guys like Carl Eller, Hall of Famer in 1979, finished his career here. But in the 80s, they put together some lines with Jacob Green and Jeff Bryant and guys like that were really good at getting after the quarterback and forcing a lot of fumbles and doing things.
Cortez was in the backfield, I'm telling you, before Hugh Millen could turn around.
Cortez could do so many things. He was as fast a big man as I've ever seen. He was in the backfield before the guard could turn his head. He had those big, strong hands, and he'd just reach out with one hand. He'd grab anybody, until he found the guy with the ball, throw them aside, and then make the tackle.
I think what people remember about Cortez is the 92 season, which was one of the most amazing in Seattle sports history.
Anytime you can be the defensive player of the year on a 2-14 team like Cortez Kennedy was in 1992, that says something. If you think about it at the time, we're talking way before internet or, people didn't know who guys were. And it was in Seattle, the farthest flight for any team. For Cortez Kennedy to have that type of a season, tells you what type of a talent he was.
I'll always remember what my broadcast partner Dave Lyman said about Cortez Kennedy. He said, I used to love to look from my middle linebacker position and see that big butt right in front of me, because I knew he was going to take up 2, maybe 3 blockers on any given play.
Down the middle of the field, the ball is batted and intercepted. Cortez Kennedy taking it the other way from the 40 to the 35. We got this one in the bag. Yeah!
If you go back and look through the time, Michael Sinclair and some of the guys that they've had, I think they've always had some really good players up front. And I think in general, that's been a pretty good group for the Seahawks throughout their history.
He got on me quick.
Joe Nash, the ultimate team guy. Maybe the ultimate Mr. Seahawk if you really look back over all the years. One of the longest careers in Seahawks history, the most starts. He had an amazing run at a difficult position. A free agent nose tackle out of Boston College. How does a guy like that play into his second decade in the National Football League? But he did, because he had it here and because he was so tough. He and Jacob and Jeff Bryant, those 3 up front, made for as good a front 3 on defense as anybody in the league.
But Jeff Bryant was a really key part of that, just another really dependable player who played a long time.
Jacob Green was a first-round draft choice for the Seahawks when I was still playing, and we all knew the first day of training camp when we saw him, this guy is for real. Not overly big, but his first step, no tackle could keep up with him.
Chuck Knox came in, was known for the defenses he'd had with the Rams and the Bills, and made Jacob Green a real focal point of that.
And it was 79, Jacob Green. He came through cleanly.
Look at the sack leaders over their careers. There's none better than Jacob Green. He was the standard and still is.
Welcome to Seattle. I know you're happy to be here. Give me some of the reasons you chose to make this move.
Oh, big reason is, the team, young guys, fiery, they love what they're doing, and, they're winning.
I remember we got Cliff Averill from Detroit, and he was terrific. Again, one of those guys who come off the edge, great pass rusher, but was unafraid when it came to the run and would, again, set that edge. Tough guy, smart, very smart.
Cliff Averill was sort of that steadying force that defense probably needed a little bit, because there were some very excitable personalities at times on that team, and Cliff was a little bit more of that steadying force that was really good to have during that era.
5 sacks. I'm about to break the Seahawks record. They got vacations planned. They want to go to Cabo.
I'm only talking in Spanish, so.
Well, Michael Bennett obviously was a very, very unique personality, and the bike ride after the Green Bay game.
How he became a great player was how he practiced. If they had RPM meters on him when he was practicing, that guy was redlining every play.
The blitz is coming. Kaepernick goes down.
If you go back to the year they got close against Atlanta, remember they had a shootout against the Falcons and almost advanced and could have maybe had a Super Bowl type season, but they were missing something on defense. Michael Bennett had been in the building before, years before, but had gotten away. And so to get him back and then to also sign Cliff Averill, at the same time, I think those 2 guys really put the defense over the top.
Ball was Snapped away from Drew Brees as he was getting set to throw right into the hands of Bennett. And it was good night, Irene.
L.O.B. L.O.B. L.O.B.
Everybody talked about the Legion of Boom. There were stars at every group going back, our linebackers. The keystone that held it all together was Brandon Mebane.
Brandon Mebane comes right up the gut. There is the shimmy shake.
I mean, this guy was underrated in my opinion. Mebane, watching him play from the time the Seahawks drafted him, he quietly did his job in the middle, but then he would always just overpower the man in front of him and never get overpowered. You never saw an offensive lineman push Brandon Mebane out of the way.
Made it easier for Bennett and Averill on the ends to get home, and for Wagner and Wright to make the tackles on the running plays. But one of the great Seahawks in terms of his play, his production, and also his contribution to making that a good locker.